So thoracic outlet syndrome is a condition that's characterized by compression of the nerves, the arteries, blood vessels in this area here between the collarbone and the first rib, and also underneath the scalene muscles, these muscles in the neck here. When all of that gets too tight, these structures get a bit compressed, and it can lead to symptoms such as neck pain, chest pain, arm pain. It can also lead to things like paresthesia of the arm, so where you lose sensation, pins and needles, or altered sensation. Your arm can go cold. So you have altered temperature through the arm and hand and fingers. And in severe cases, it can lead to weakness in the arm and hand. So welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, my name's Mike, and I'm a physiotherapist based here in the UK, and I specialize in helping people manage their chronic pain conditions. And today we're talking about something that I help a lot of my patients with, which is thoracic outlet syndrome. And in today's video in particular, we're going to be talking about the 7 things that I recommend to my patients to help them to overcome and improve their symptoms. So one of the main techniques that I use to help my patients manage their symptoms is to advise them on some activities to stop them from placing an undue demand on the thoracic outlet area. And that sounds really simplistic, and it is in theory, but sometimes we just do these things without realizing that we're doing them, and it's not until our symptoms become worse that we then have to step away from them. So we're going to try and be more aware of those symptoms. We're going to know what we're doing from the start point. And today, the 7 things that I often see people struggle with, we're going to address and resolve straight away. So the very first thing to avoid if you have thoracic outlet syndrome is repetitive overhead movements. So this is often hard if you have an occupation which demands that you have your arms overhead, like painters, plasterers, people like that. But it can also affect tennis players, swimmers, and other people that have these activities where their arms are kind of above shoulder level all the time. And when you're doing this, you're actually placing the thoracic outlet under more of a compressed position. So we need to try and reduce the demand that we place on the thoracic outlet syndrome. So the way of managing this is to perhaps look at how much time you're spending in those positions, seeing if it's affecting your symptoms, and then minimizing the amount of time that you're doing it. So break your chunks of work up into smaller tasks. That way you place less demand on the thoracic outlet as a whole, and your symptoms will thank you for it. If you're doing this as a sport, as a tennis player, you can consider looking at your technique. As a swimmer, you can change the way in which you swim. So if you're doing lots of front crawl, for example, you can modify that to breaststroke instead for a period of time. So I'm not saying that you have to give up the tennis or you have to stop swimming overhead, with the front crawl, but you do need to manage the time in those positions, and that's really important. So the second thing to avoid is heavy lifting and carrying. So from time to time, you're going to have to do this, like it's part of life. But if we can avoid heavy lifting and carrying, particularly in awkward positions, then this will help our thoracic outlet syndrome symptoms hugely. When we're lifting heavy and our shoulders are being pulled down, or perhaps we're in awkward positions which compress and close down the thoracic outlet, our symptoms will worsen as a result of that. So you need to look at a way of managing that. And a good tip from me would be to make sure you always use correct lifting techniques. So make sure a lot of your power is coming from your legs rather than dragging things up from the floor with your arms. And use other things if you can. So trolleys or things like that you can use to place heavy items on to move them around a bit makes perfect sense. But I often see people struggling with this. They just try and get on with their normal activities. But if you have thoracic outlet syndrome, you have to manage these things better. So tip number 3 is to avoid or minimize poor posture positions. Okay, so a poor posture would be characterized by shoulders that are slumping forwards, chin poking out. And again, you can just see this position just closing down the thoracic outlet here, bringing the muscles tighter down. It actually compresses the space between the collarbone and the first rib, right where this stuff exits. And we need to make that area as patent and open as possible. So if you have poor posture, you can check my channel out. I've got a 5-minute posture fix video there that you can look at if you'd like some specific advice. But you need to look at your posture when you're standing, when you're working at a PC, And this needs to be something that you do all the time. It can't just be something that you just address when you feel your neck getting a bit stiff. So we need to make changes to your posture, your working station, perhaps the way that you're walking, in order to minimize the demand on the thoracic outlet. Okay, so the fourth thing that you need to avoid, and oh my goodness, I see this so much and people don't realize they're doing it, is to stop carrying your bags over one shoulder. So I see obviously ladies do it with handbags, guys doing it with rucksacks just held over one shoulder. It just compresses this down, tightens up all of the muscles in that area, and is a nightmare for your thoracic outlet syndrome. Just stop doing it. You know, like if you've got a bag, you can perhaps carry it down with your hand, or if you've got a rucksack, then place the thing over both your shoulders and lessen the demand on your thoracic outlet straight away. The fifth thing that you must avoid if you have thoracic outlet syndrome is prolonged static positions. So by that, I just mean if you're a desk and office worker and you are getting engrossed in a task and you find that you are engrossed for that an hour or 2 or 3 hours before moving, this is also bad news for your thoracic outlet syndrome symptoms, and you can manage this a lot better by taking regular breaks. I ask my patients to use this rule of thumb where you're changing your posture and your position every 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, so I know that's a big ask, but actually if you set an alarm on your phone that just goes off every 30 minutes, and that will prompt you just to get up out of your chair, you can walk around the desk, you can do some shoulder rolls if you like. That's enough to change the position, reorganize the muscle tone of your neck and shoulders, and your thoracic outlet will thank you very much for this. So we've arrived at the seventh thing that you must avoid if you have thoracic outlet syndrome. This is a bit harder to modify. So the seventh thing that you must avoid or minimize is stress and tension. Okay, so I can tell you straight away, don't be stressed, right? It's obviously not as easy as that. But if we use meditation, mindfulness, restfulness techniques in order to take some of the pressure out of the upper back and shoulders, this will help massively with the position of the collarbone, the rib, and the muscles. And by default, the soft tissue that exits it, the vascular tissue, the nerves, the arteries, won't be as compressed. So you will have an improvement in your symptoms. So living with thoracic outlet syndrome requires you to make careful adjustments and considerations to what you're doing in day-to-day life. And it's this management, this careful management of the things that you're doing day to day that can make huge improvements in your quality of life, and your symptoms will absolutely come down as a result of that. So it does require some diligence, but you'll notice that the 7 things to avoid are all simple things to address, and you can start implementing them straight away. So I task you now, I give you this challenge to maybe take a couple of these things straight away and try and implement them into your life. And I'm sure, like the majority of my patients, you'll achieve a great benefit from them. So thanks very much for watching. I've got another video on thoracic outlet that I've just published, which is about the best sleeping positions if you're struggling with sleep at night, and you can have a look at that here. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.